By now, you're probably aware that new lighting efficiency standards in the U.S. are leading to big changes in light bulbs. The Energy Independence and Security Act of 2007 focused on improving energy efficiency in several areas, from vehicles and appliances to public buildings. Part of this legislation requires that light bulbs manufactured for sale in the U.S. meet certain efficiency standards. This has led to the gradual phasing out of traditional 100, 75, 60, and 40 watt incandescent bulbs, and some other bulbs such as certain traditional flood and spotlight bulbs, and some of the longer fluorescent tubes. It's also changing the way we buy light bulbs as manufacturers introduce a vast array of more energy efficient alternatives. If it seems a little confusing, don't worry. We've got some tips to help you navigate the rapidly changing lighting scene. There are many alternatives to traditional incandescent bulbs, including halogen bulbs, compact fluorescents or CFLs, and light-emitting diode or LED bulbs. Halogen bulbs typically have a lifespan of 1 to 3 years. They deliver high-quality light efficiently and are fully dimmable. CFLs usually last about 6 to 10 years, and they come in lots of different colors. LED bulbs like these are relatively new and catching on fast. They have very long lifespans, usually ranging from 15 to 25 years. LEDs are extremely energy efficient, and they burn cooler than traditional bulbs, so they can even help you save on home cooling costs. LEDs contain no mercury, and many are dimmable. So with all of these different bulbs available, how do you select appropriate replacements for your traditional incandescent bulbs? First, it's important to understand the difference between watts and lumens. Wattage is actually a measure of power use. It doesn't refer to how bright a bulb is. Brightness is measured in units called lumens. Traditionally, people would shop for light bulbs by looking at wattage. Back when incandescent bulbs were the only ones available, it was easy to gauge a bulb's brightness by knowing how much power it used. These days, with all the different types of bulbs available, that approach no longer works, so manufacturers now include brightness in lumens on packaging. To replace an incandescent bulb with something that provides a similar amount of light, look at the lumens. For brightness equivalent to a traditional 40-watt bulb, look for about 450 lumens. A 60-watt equivalent would be about 800 lumens. A 75-watt equivalent would be about 1100 lumens. And a 100-watt equivalent would be about 1600 lumens. One of these 10-watt CFL bulbs, for instance, produces 520 lumens, so it's roughly equivalent to a 40-watt incandescent. The CFL is a bit brighter, but not so much that you notice the difference. Another thing that's helpful to understand when you're buying light bulbs is color temperature. Color temperature, which is measured in units called kelvins, isn't about bulb heat. It refers to how warm or how cool the color of the light appears. Most household light bulbs fall between 2700 and 6500 kelvins. Numbers on the low end of this scale represent warmer looking yellowish light. A good example would be this soft white LED bulb at 2700 kelvins. Numbers at the high end of the scale represent bluish light that looks closer to natural daylight. An example is this daylight CFL bulb at 6500 kelvins. Toward the middle of the scale is whitish light. An example would be this cool white CFL at 4100 kelvins. To help consumers effectively compare different bulb options, the U.S. Federal Trade Commission now requires manufacturers to provide lighting facts labels on the packaging of most general service bulbs with medium bases. These labels look much like the nutrition facts labels on packaged food. The lighting facts label lists brightness in lumens, energy use in watts, estimated annual energy cost, life in years, and color temperature in kelvins. For CFLs, there's also a statement that the product contains mercury. Referring to this label makes it much easier to narrow down the options. One thing you've probably noticed about many of the newer light bulbs, especially LEDs, is that they cost more than traditional incandescent bulbs. When you factor in the lower energy use and longer lifespans of these bulbs, though, they actually cost you less in the long run. Say you bought a 40-watt incandescent bulb for a lamp that you use for about 3 hours a day. The bulb costs about $1 and it lasts about a year. The cost of the electricity to operate that bulb, based on average rates, is estimated at around $5 a year. So the total cost to own and use the bulb is about $6 a year. That may not sound like much, but imagine the cost over 10 years. You'd go through 10 bulbs at $1 a piece and spend about $50 on the electricity for a total of about $60 over 10 years, just for that one lamp. Now imagine you bought this 40-watt equivalent LED bulb and used it for 3 hours a day instead. The bulb costs about $15 and has a lifespan of more than 20 years and uses just 7 watts to produce roughly the same amount of light. With the average electricity cost for this bulb at about $1 per year, that's a total of $16 spent on the bulb plus electricity in the first year. But look what happens over 10 years. You're still using the same bulb that cost $15 and only $10 worth of electricity for a total of $25. That's less than half of what you would have spent on 40-watt incandescents. And the LED still has 10 plus years of life expectancy to go, so the savings become even more dramatic as time goes on. Now these are just approximations, and we haven't factored in things like regional differences in energy costs or price changes over time. But this still gives a pretty clear picture of the savings you can see with energy-efficient bulbs. And the benefits go far beyond saving energy and money. Using less energy also helps reduce our impact on the environment, and that's great for everyone. Remember that not all bulbs are intended for all fixtures or all purposes, so it's important to review the packaging. For instance, not all bulbs are dimmable, and some are not intended for enclosed fixtures or emergency lighting. Bringing your old bulb into your Do It Best store with you can be very helpful when you're shopping for a replacement. Check out our great selection of energy-efficient light bulbs today. Our friendly staff will be happy to help you find just the right bulbs for your every lighting need.